quick little episode of LJ's Garage. I am sitting in a 2020 BMW M240i. BMW says this is a white knuckle, corner hugging, enthusiast type of car, and I'm going to find out exactly what the M240i has to offer today.
The 2 Series was introduced in 2014. This is the F22 generation. Starting at about $35,000 for the 2 Series, you can go all the way up to $45,000 for the M240i, which I'll cover in this video. And you can get this in a couple different flavors. You've got the Grand Coupe, the 4-door, the convertible for an extra $5,000, and then the top of the line M2, which we won't really talk about much here. If you're new to BMWs and unfamiliar with the lineup, the larger the number, the larger the series, the larger the size vehicle. Even though it's at the bottom of BMW's lineup, don't let that fool you. That means absolutely nothing. There's a lot that these 2 Series has to offer. The color on this one is black sapphire metallic, and it does include an aero kit. That's one thing that you do get with the M240i trim. On the back end, you do have dual exhaust, and you get a cool little rear spoiler. Have a listen to this exhaust. It sounds amazing. For the front end, you do get a cerium gray front grille, as well as LED daytime running lights and LED headlights. It's all pretty good looking, and then you do get 18-inch wheels along with the M Sport brakes. Under the hood is a 3-liter inline-6 single turbo that makes 335 horsepower, 369 foot-pounds of torque. It comes standard with a 6-speed manual, but you can opt for the 8-speed automatic if you so choose. It does 0 to 60 in about 4.6 seconds, or if you get the auto, 4.4 seconds. Rear wheel drive is standard unless you spend $2,000 extra to get the X-Drive. Since this one's a manual, gas mileage is 19 city, 27 highway, and that's on a 13-gallon tank. And even though this is a small car, you'd be surprised this trunk space is actually pretty good, and you could actually fit a lot of quarantine water bottles and toilet paper in here. So these seats, they are 14-way adjustable. They are BMW Sensatec fake leatherette, but they are M Sport seats, which is a nice little touch on the M240i. I was a little worried when BMW said they're going to make a Grand Coupe version of this, but getting into the back seat is actually really not that bad. There's a good bit of room back here. I'm 5'9", and the seat's set for me, which is about 5'9", 5'10"-ish, and so I'm pretty comfortable back here. There's a good bit of leg room, and I'll show you guys what the headroom looks like, but there's not much back here otherwise. From the back, you can also move and adjust the front seats, which is a nice little thing, and it makes getting in and out of this a breeze. Headroom's not too bad.
The seats do fold flat, and there really isn't that much else back here. You got a little tray right in there in the middle, and that's about it. No other cup holders. The first things that you're going to notice when you get in here is this. It's this weird design, plasticky thing that BMW does. I'm not a huge fan of it, and this is where the 2 Series starts to show that it's not all about the normal BMW luxury like the other series are. And you can even look at this screen right here. This is a 6.5-inch display, which is nice and dandy. There's no problem with that. But the issue with it is look at all this bezeling. This is old school. You don't see that stuff anymore. And for a 2020 to still see something like that is pretty interesting, to leave it at that. It does have the M Sport steering wheel. I like that a lot. No complaints there. And then over here, you'll see that you got your light adjustments. And you do have your lane departure warning over here, and then you do have your forward collision avoidance and all that good stuff. So you do get those as standard, so you don't have to worry. But the one thing you are missing is, if you look at this, you don't have a blind spot monitoring system. So I would definitely go for that package, because driving this without blind spot monitoring in 2020 feels a little weird. I know that's a little first world problem, but driving on the highway becomes a little bit different when you have been so used to driving with that blind spot monitoring. Take a look at the gauges. All you see are just simple gauges. There's nothing else. Nothing else pops up other than the forward collision warning that'll pop up right here. There's really nothing else. It's a pretty simple gauge, and that's it. It's all about driving. Move your attention over here, back to here, I guess. You can see that this is the normal BMW iDrive system. Really easy to use. If you have any questions on that, definitely drop them, but very easy. You connect your phone, you got Apple CarPlay, and all that good stuff. Nothing really complex there. You get 2 cup holders that are good size, and you can get wireless charging and all those cool things. This does have the manual transmission, so that's pretty nice. Again, look, super simple. This is the tiny little iDrive controlling system that you have. And then on this left side, all you have are these. There's no other settings or buttons or anything for you to push. And if you do go to Sport Plus, you can actually, it turns off traction control anyways, so there's no real worry or concern. Old school e-brake, gotta love that. Adaptive M suspension, and you do get launch control if you go for the automatic. Then in your storage area, normal storage stuff, and then you do get one little lone USB port right there. Dual climate control, but again, they've got this weird gloss, plasticky design thing with the blue that doesn't make any sense. This is where the 2 Series kind of loses that. Take a look at this little mirror. I know that it's a smaller car, so you don't need a big mirror, but what is this? This is a little dude. Even the visor, as you'll see here, if I can get the lighting right, little dude. What is that? Look at that little guy. So there are some, you know, trade-offs to the smaller car or the lower end series. It's got a sunroof, easy enough. Nothing to really explain there. But overall, that's the interior.
This interior is solid, it's okay. There's not anything to complain about if you're not looking for too much luxury and fanciness and you just want to drive. This is all about just a driver's car. I had a lot to say about driving this M240i, so if you don't want to hear all that, thanks for checking out the video so far and consider subscribing. Otherwise, continue and you can watch me whip this car.
I gotta say, my first impressions of this thing after living with it for a day or so is that it's actually really, really fun. And I don't say that lightly. I'm saying that I forgot how much fun it is to have a little small coupe that's just got a lot of power, and it's very go-kart type driving experience. You know, it's got a lot of power, you can kind of go full throttle. It doesn't have as much power as the M2, so you're not gonna get in illegal trouble, but that is pretty close. And so that power difference, I don't know if it's worth it for most people. And that comes to be the argument for most people that are looking and deciding as to whether or not they want a normal M.5 or half M, whatever you want to call it, versus just getting a full M, because you don't get to use the full power of a M all day, all the time, unless you live down here in Texas, but that's a different story. I love how easy it is to handle. I've heard the handling on this car described as something compared to like rails on train tracks or whatever, however that goes. And I know exactly what they mean, because this car, it hugs the road, and I know that it's not the meatiest tires or the craziest setup that's, you know, that you're riding on, but for what it does have, it gets the job done very well. And would I trade this for my M3? No, definitely not. The M2 for the M3, now that's a really tempting proposition right there. That's where I start to wonder, if I were to get in an M2, how much I really would love that versus the size of the M3. It goes without saying that this manual transmission is a blast. Really easy to drive, really easy to shift, second nature, very fast, and it's just smooth as butter. And I love the gearing on this. It's really, really good for both city and, you know, pulls on the highway or pulls wherever you feel like doing pulls, but I really enjoy it. And the dynamic suspension and everything that you can do on here, change it into sport mode, makes a huge difference. If you've driven any of the other BMWs, you know that that actually works. There's a lot that happens. It's not just, you know, lots of different sounds and RPMs getting higher and you not going anywhere. It actually makes a pretty big difference. What I love about the M240i is that the suspension is actually not as aggressive as on the M cars, obviously. And so you get to drive it around the city comfortably, you know? It's only half sporty, it's not full sporty. But that's where the downside is if you want that full sporty, this isn't it. So then that presents a little bit of a problem, huh? And I turned the traction control off on this thing, and it gets squirrely, and I love it. But not in a squirrely, scary way, in a squirrely way that is super easy to handle. And it's kind of the difference between that and the M3 for me, is that the M3 is a lot larger, about 10 inches, and you can actually tell the difference really easy on a larger car like that. It's just more car to handle, which is obvious with that equation. Overall though, I mean, I love driving this thing, and I'm gonna get on it here in a little bit and let you guys kind of see what it sounds like, feel kind of what I feel, the best that I can on video here. That's always the tricky part. It's really, really easy to whip this thing around. Still quiet, still a very pleasant drive, super comfortable, no complaints on that aspect. Now if I was coming from like a M8 or something like that, yeah, then there'd probably be some complaints, but I'm not that picky. And the one thing I love about this car is that the M2 is trying to give the people that really want to drive that kind of car again. So we're getting that, you know, just like the 370Zs and stuff, where you're not worried about the interior, you're more so worried about this driving experience. That's what this is. So you just get on it, and this thing just handles so well. I really do miss driving a manual, and this one is one of the best ones ever. This clutch, so nice. And if you really care about a little bit more power than the 335 or whatever, then definitely get the M2 if you can justify the higher price tag, and I mean a lot higher. On the used market, if you can find a good deal on a 2015-16 M2, I would choose that over this without like a hesitation. So just something to keep in mind with the price of one of these brand new. That might be something that you guys want to consider, is the used market. I know that may not be everyone's forte, might not be everyone's thing, but M2s are in the high 40s, and that's right where this one lands at 47. So if you can get your hands on one of them with low miles and good service history, why not? It's super nice though with the smaller cars, is when you look behind you, you realize there's not a whole lot of car back there, so you know that you can kind of weave in and out, do what you need to do, and just kind of have fun. I feel like the car does what I want it to do. This is how you get back into the driving enthusiast type of car, and they're doing a good job getting there.